sewer thing here, and have you ever had the problem of finding something so stupid you don't know how to respond to it? Yeah, we're gonna try with this one.
It's a natural force that keeps us all from flying off into space. We were always...
Alright, so I want to talk a little bit about that phrase. That phrase that we get so often. You know, if it weren't for gravity, we'd all go flying off into space.
Alright, cool, let's go do that. And I'm 100% confident that you are gonna have a nice, well thought out, tangible point by the end of this video, and that this is not 7.5 minutes of you incoherently rambling on and on. Oh god.
As ridiculous as that sounds, there are still adults, supposedly rational thinking adults, that still say that exact same thing.
Yes, there are rationally thinking adults out there in the world. I don't know what's hard to believe about that.
The situation is that we've all been subjected to an extensive propaganda campaign that has resulted in people operating with total disregard for their own God-given senses.
It's nice to see a little bit of an insight into his indoctrination, isn't it?
And this has led people to believe in ideologies that go completely against common sense and rational thought.
Dude, quit talking about flat earthers and start getting on to your globe debunkings.
When individuals express their knowledge that they live on a flat, stationary plane, one of the most popular responses we get is in the form of gravity. And gravity is used to explain away everything that makes absolutely no sense in relation to your day-to-day experience. It's the glue that holds this whole thing together.
And I would love for a single flat earther to give me one point, one reason why gravity does not make sense.
In gravity, and we're told to respond by explaining gravity and saying that gravity is this amazing force on Earth that pulls everything towards the center of mass from all directions.
Gravity is the phenomenon in which all things with mass and gives off energy is attracted to one another. Here on Earth, that is what gives things weight, but gravity is everywhere and affects everything. That is one of the simplest definitions that I can give you. If you wanted me to, we could go on for hours.
This infers that when people say that believe in a globe, that there exist people thousands of miles beneath your feet who are walking, driving, riding bikes, flying airplanes, finding love and loss, experiencing tragedy and hope, all while living their entire existence upside down relative to their position.
I'm going to be kind here and just assume that you meant relative to your position and not relative to their position, because if I didn't, you would just sound retarded. Now, there's a reason why we have a north, south, east, and west, because we need to objectify the directions we're talking about. Up, down, left, and right are relative values. You can objectively see this by saying left and right, by looking at someone who's looking at you and just say, hey, look to your right, and you're both going to look different directions. Why would that not be the same with up and down? How do you know that you're not the one who's upside down and they're not the ones who's right side up?
And when people say that, I don't believe that they're really thinking that deeply about what they're saying.
I don't think you've ever thought deeply about what you're saying in your life.
And what you're seeing here is a visual demonstration of just that. I know it looks silly, but we globe skeptics or flat earthers, we're not the ones that believe that this nonsense actually matches up with reality.
Oh dear, it seems as if the van is right side up, because up and down are relative. Oh.
Just because that's what we're told. But if you believe that gravity's strong enough to be pulling everything towards the center of mass, and let's go ahead and take a look at this example and break it down a little bit. A person can be standing next to a 4,000-pound vehicle and step outside said vehicle and stand next to a helium balloon while that balloon is attempting to float upward to the sky that is relatively beneath someone else's feet.
Yeah, I don't see the problem here. The balloon is going up, and the guy is standing on the earth. Everything seems normal, nicely right side up. I don't know why you're upside down, though.
because people believe that's a thing. You can dig through the earth and then come out the other side and there's going to be sky.
Well, ignoring all the faults and reasons why we can't actually go and dig straight through the earth, including a molten core, the effects of gravity, the pressure of the rock above you, and all that reasons, yes, you would come out to sky and ground, and it would be right side up. But that wouldn't be a problem because the effects of gravity was pulling on you in that direction for half of that journey anyway.
Up there, when you get out on the other side. People believe that gravity is strong enough to hold this 4,000-pound van to the ground because that's what you're seeing right here.
You do know how gravity is calculated, right? Oh, who am I kidding? Of course you don't. So I'll just put it in some layman's terms real quick. You can easily calculate the force of gravity here on Earth using the equation F equals mg. F is the force of the gravity on Earth, m is the mass of an object, and g is the acceleration of gravity. So, disregarding units in this situation because we don't really need them, let's say that the acceleration of gravity is 10 and the mass of this object is 1. The force that we would get out would be 10 units of force. Now, let's say that a mass of an object is 2. Now we would get 20 units of force. As you can tell, the more mass an object is, the more units of this gravitational force that this object will experience. Ergo, the more mass that something has on the surface of Earth, the larger the attraction of gravity is. So it should be easy to understand why a van is sitting still on the surface of the Earth.
Somebody can step out of that same vehicle with absolutely no detection of this tremendous force.
You do detect the force. It's called your weight.
That's holding the van to the ground, and as ridiculous as this sounds and looks, that's exactly what most of the Earth's population has been trained to believe. And then you're going to have these so-called experts on the internet who would shrug that off and offer up word salad, pseudo-scientific jargon.
Lack of self-awareness, thy name is D-Marble.
Word trickery to confuse people, using terms like selective gravity to explain away these things that have no relation to reality.
Oh, like we should trust you on what has no relation to reality. You know, because you believe in a sun that hovers above the earth, going round and around, yet somehow dips beneath the horizon?
Now let's address this logical fallacy of gravity's what's keeping us all from flying off into space.
Well, to start, you need to present us with a logical fallacy, which you have failed to do so.
And add a little question in there. Now, those of us who actually trust in our senses to interpret reality and have grown a skepticism for the globe model, and we find it easier to conclude that gravity is a non-existent force and that we all, meaning everyone existing on Earth, all of us, we experience life on a flat, motionless plane.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I experienced life on a globe. Now, recently I went on a flight. And on this flight, I thought I'd like to do some experimentation. So I downloaded a Thermodylite app onto my phone, and whilst taxiing at the airport, I snapped this picture. As you can see, it's just 0.1 degree off of perfectly level with your eye level, and it seems like it's not calibrated completely correctly as the eye level is just a little bit above the horizon. But that shouldn't matter, because what we're measuring is the difference, not the accuracy of the app per se. Now, once we got into the air and the captain said we were at a height of 35,000 feet, I snapped this picture. As you can tell, the horizon has clearly dropped. This is me using a tool because my senses cannot detect this 3.4 degree change in my eye level. Do you understand that, D-Marble?
But if gravity is the force that's keeping us all from flying off into space, then this would mean that there's some force, some repellent force that's either pushing everything away from the surface of the Earth, or that there's some force that's external to the Earth that's pulling everything away from the surface of the Earth in all directions, relatively.
No, you do not need a repellent force. You see, gravity cancels itself out because you are pulling on the Earth at the same force that the Earth is pulling on you. There is also another force that is acting upon you on Earth. It's centripetal force from the spin of the Earth. If gravity were to just magically go away, the centripetal force of you going around and around and around on Earth would toss you off the surface almost immediately. But before you flat earthers get your britches in a wad, the centripetal force that you experience is extremely low, and gravity cancels that out fairly easily.
This would mean that there's some force that gravity's constantly in this eternal struggle with. Well, as far as we know, there's no repulsive force pushing everything away from the Earth.
Aren't you guys the ones who are always crying like, if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, then we would all get thrown off the surface?
And as far as the external force pulling things off the Earth, that gravity's supposed to be constantly fighting against, well, some people would say that's the vacuum of space, and, you know, attribute all that to, you know, this infinite vacuum of space. But it's been demonstrated and it's been discussed at length by other content creators that the idea of an enclosed system existing next to a vacuum without a physical membrane or a barrier between the two, that's a physical impossibility.
Real quick, thought experiment. If there's a pressure gradient, where does this gradient stop? And why does it stop? Alright guys, that's it for me. I can't handle any more of this stupid. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see the original video, I'll have a link to it in the description below. Please do not go and leave any nasty comments on D-Marble's video. He has enough trouble feeding himself in the morning. If you like, please leave a comment on this video, or like and subscribe. Also, if you want, check me out on Twitter at the handle Blue Earth Thing. Same thing on Instagram, Blue Earth Thing. Thank you guys for watching. Blue Earth Thing out.